Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the 48 Merc truck build. If you're new here, I'm Zach. If you're returning from a previous video or my Instagram, thank you for the continued support and welcome back to Wilson Builds. Today, if you saw, I don't know if it's going to be the last video or the video before, we put the motor, we put the transmission, we put the grill back on, and the truck is slowly coming together, and I'm very happy with the progress. So today we're going to be building a bit of a custom exhaust, nothing too special, nothing too fancy either. Just got some different pipe lengths, some angles, and a U-bend, some other little pieces that we could try and make a custom exhaust, but again, nothing too special. I just want a decent sound for this 283 we have in here. That being said, I'm also going to try and get the box back on, because if you saw the last video, we put the grill back on and it totally wrapped up the front of the truck and gave it more of a finished look. So if you're looking in my garage and you see the truck, it looks finished, then you go to the back and there's no bed. So the bed will complete the back end of the truck and in turn complete the rest of the truck. So that's my two objectives today, is getting the exhaust finished and getting the bed back on. So there might be a couple jobs in between, but hopefully we can get it all done today. Anyways, let's get into the video. So since we're not going too fancy with the exhaust, I can get away with ordering minimal materials to do so. And by minimal, I mean, you know, not so many intricate bends and so on and so forth. When I did the Roadster, which there's a really good video of that, I don't know, a few months back, I had to do a lot of bends, a lot of intricate kind of moves through the frame. But in the case of the Mercury, it's going to be pretty straightforward. We're going to come off the header with our 45 degree. We are going to use our 10-foot length here and run it back. We're going to put our mufflers in, which should be arriving anytime from Amazon. And then I also like buying the U-bend just in case we want to do a little turn down for the end of the exhaust, or if we have to make a little slight adjustment, we can kind of do a cut in the U and weld it in a way where it's going to, you know, angle away from something that we don't want to touch. First things first, we're going to take our collectors and go bolt those on, and then figure out, you know, how much we need to take off the 45 degrees and move forward kind of foot by foot, I like calling it. So yeah, let's hop underneath the truck and see what we're working with. All right, so we're going to venture underneath the truck now. I got my collectors, I got a couple bolts to hold them in, so hopefully this isn't a huge deal. I hate going underneath this truck. I mean, I probably could jack it up, but where's the fun in that? All right, as you can see, both our collectors are just bolted in kind of loosely so we can manipulate them if we need to. However, we take one of our 45s now, and we need to get it in a spot where it's not doing this. As you can see, the 45, if just bolted straight to our collector, it shoots the exhaust pipe upwards, which we don't really want. I mean, maybe we could come over this cross member, but I don't really like the look of that. So we're gonna have to manipulate it down a little bit. So we're gonna have to do some fancy cutting at the 45, which allows this to come a little bit more down. Now this can be angled a little bit because we can save it when we weld the pipe, but if we can make it level and a little bit higher off the ground than this, where it's going to come nicely underneath our transmission cross member, I'll be happy with that. So what I'm going to do now is just kind of put this up there. You can see I made it a little bit of a reference mark, and we're going to try a few different angles because we want this straight on the ground, but we don't want it too low, we don't want it too high, and we need it to clear, again, this transmission cross member. So this is going to be the worst part of the video because it's really hard to film. However, we're going to get it done quickly here. So we got to just make a reference mark again and then cut it, bring it in here, tack it, and go from there. All right, we're now going to take our 45s that we just marked, and just cut about 4 inches off the top so it kind of slips further back, making this a bit higher towards the frame, but still low enough where it's going to miss our transmission cross member. We may or may not have to kind of angle it a little weird on our flange, on our collector. And, you know, it's not going to sit flat against the flange. It might kind of sit like this. But I mean, we'll just weld it. You'll never know the difference, and this will look even anyways. So let's get these cut, and then we'll mock them in. All right, so from in the cab, you can see we have our little down sections in the right places now. As you can see, it's sitting kind of, I don't know, crooked in there, but that's totally fine. We can totally make that work. I'm not too worried. Same thing, I don't know if I can zoom in, with this one. You can see it doesn't completely go up to the flange, and that's totally fine. We can just weld the gap. All right, let's get these finished up now. As you can see on our passenger side, it's a little bit crooked in there, but nothing too serious. But you go to the driver's side and it is very crooked in there. However, this isn't gonna affect the performance or the flow or anything like that. It's strictly just, it'll just look a little weird, but it'll be totally fine once we do a really clean weld around here. And it's gonna be, you know, not visible really unless you're underneath the truck. So it is what it is. I mean, we'll just make it work. So let's get this guy flipped here. I really like this vise because it allows tubing to sit in here really nicely. And then we'll start welding this. All right, so our down tubes are finished. They're really hot from welding. The welds look pretty decent. I had to do one little off-course weld on this one just to fill a hole that I created. However, I'm gonna wait for those to cool off. I mean, our mufflers should be here within 20 minutes from what Amazon tells me. So fingers crossed they show up by the end of the day. I've had it where they don't show up at all and then they say, hey, it's gonna be there next week. So hopefully that doesn't happen. But I don't think I'm gonna put the mufflers right behind here. I think we're gonna create some space and do them a little further back. However, we'll plan that when they get here. And perfect timing. Our mufflers are here. Okay, so here are our mufflers. Now these are kind of cheapy ones off Amazon. They're about, I think, $50 each. That's $50 Canadian. You can always put a link in the bio below. But I use these on the Roadster, and I really like them. These are a little bit longer than the ones on the Roadster. These are 16 inches, and they're stainless. They look pretty decent, and I found them to sound pretty good too. They're not really a muffler, however. They're more of like a resonator, but they do muffle the sound, you know, a decent amount where it's not too raspy, and they actually do sound pretty good. So get the other guy out here, and we'll get it ready to start installing wherever we want to install them. But it'll, you know, shine up the exhaust a little bit and make the undercarriage look a lot better. But yeah, there they are. All right, both our down tubes are in. So now we just have to connect from the down tube and go back into a muffler. All right, so our mufflers are kind of in spot now. Everything seems to be pretty even, so I'm going to start tacking everything before we start worrying about our side pipes to come out. If you've noticed on any of my vehicles, they always run side pipes in front of the rear tires. I don't know, I just like the sound, I think it looks cool, and this should be no different. So I'm going to crawl underneath here, do some tacking, and then we'll start figuring out these, and then we'll pull the whole system out and weld it up. Alright, so I have the 45s in there, and I'm not too happy with it exiting right here. However, we could shorten it and it would exit a little bit differently. However, I cut our U-bend in half, and I'm gonna put that in there and see if I can run it under our running board a little bit. So it's kind of hard to imagine what it's gonna look like, but if I connect a pipe like this, it would obviously hit our running board. However, if I cut this shorter and then cut a portion of this, I could basically dump it just before right here, and I think it would be pretty slick. So I'm gonna take some measurements, cut this, cut kind of on the angle here so it's now pointed to the ground, or we can orientate it to the ground but back as well, and then we'll tack it in. But I'm way happier with the 90 coming out. All right, so we just cut our little elbow. So it'll sit something like this. And I think I'm just gonna clock it back a little bit so when the exhaust comes out, it is down, but it's also kind of pushing outwards to behind the truck. So let's see here. All right, so we have a 90, and then it comes just like that, and we'll exit down and out. And I think it looks pretty cool. I don't think it's gonna rub, it has some good clearance. So I think we're good to tack that on. All right, now that we have this side all tacked up, I'm gonna move on to the other side, and then we can pull it out, finish weld it, put gaskets in, and then make our mounting hardware. So it shouldn't be too challenging. I have mounting brackets that we're gonna use. We're not gonna weld anything on, I don't think. So pretty straightforward. So let's get this done. All right guys, so it's the next day. The first thing I did this morning was take these outside and give them a quick coat of paint with some header paint, and it looks a lot better. It's gonna match the headers, and it's pretty much done. We have to put some mounting brackets on now, but that's not gonna be too hard. I'm pretty happy with the result of this exhaust system being, we had no plan coming into it, and you know, it was parts we kind of had lying around and some parts we had to order, and overall it was only about $150 to make this exhaust system, so that's pretty sweet. But without further ado, let's get these on because I want to get the box on. So I'm going to crawl underneath the truck, hopefully for the last time, and mock these up, put our clamps on, find a good spot for them, or sorry, our brackets, find a good place for them, and then we'll move forward from there. All right, so we're gonna head under, start putting the exhaust on. I got our gaskets, I got our Ultra Copper by Permatex. If you're not using Ultra Copper by Permatex to do these gaskets, I highly recommend it because it just makes the seal so much nicer. I just kind of generously put it on both sides, and then pretty much guaranteed not to leak. It's super handy. Nothing is more annoying than getting your exhaust on, finally kind of getting the bolts in awkward positions, and then you turn it on and you hear a leak. This stops that. So I always use this now. Just a little tip for you guys. However, let's get underneath here and try putting it in. All right. I think that's going to work out pretty decently. We have enough vibration where I'm not too worried about it. And I think enough clearance down here, but we could always lob off a little bit more and get this a little higher if we decide it rubs. But it looks not so bad. Let's go to the other side. All right, both exhaust pipes are in. They look symmetrical, and I think that will do. So I'm gonna pull the truck out, or push it out, and then sweep everything in here, get it all clean, and then we'll work on getting the bed on. All right guys, so it's been about 3 to 4 weeks since that last scene of me pushing the truck back in after putting the box on. And you may notice there's black on the rear fenders, black on the front fenders, and a little bit of black on the cab and stuff like that. And that is because I painted it and kind of rubbed through, made it look a little bit more patina. I just didn't like how the rust was looking. It looked kind of too bright and orange. So being the running boards were already black, I just sprayed a little bit of paint and wet sanded it and kind of got a Scotch-Brite and made it look, again, patina. And I think it looks really good. It kind of breaks up the truck and gives it a little bit more contrast. So I'm really happy with that. And we've been slaving away on this thing. I didn't take those 3 weeks off or those 4 weeks off. I mean, I was wiring, I was getting the gas tank plumbed, I was doing a lot of stuff to get this truck at a suitable spot so we can start driving it very soon. I apologize I didn't film that stuff, but if you're still watching this video, you're probably invested into the Mercury build. If you haven't seen the previous videos, there is a lot of previous videos of this, but I really wanted to just take that last little bit and just don't film, just do, and got a lot done, and I'm really happy what we got done. That being said, I'm going to call the video there. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate all the support. If you could drop a subscribe, a like, and a comment, that really helps boost the channel's, I guess, algorithm or whatever. I know it's corny to ask every time. And reach out to me on Instagram, same as my handle down below, Wilson with 2 L's. I love seeing you guys on there. I like everyone DMing me. I really appreciate the messages. And yeah, I'm super stoked. This is going to be done pretty quickly. I mean, we have to do the cooling system, so just plumb the radiator and the transmission into the radiator and put the drive shaft in, and we could drive this down the road. So really happy to share that moment with you guys, but that will be in a video to come. Anyways, guys, thanks again. I really appreciate all the support, and we'll see you next time.